I'm here now with the evaluators, the most important people here today. They're the people who decide what mark your horse gets. Leslie, can you tell us a little bit about how you came to become an evaluator?
Well, I was invited to join the panel through my experience as a rider, really, and as a trainer, and also the fact that I've been involved in producing the production and the riding of horses at studs for quite a few years. So I've been the rider and producer of many stallions at various studs for different people, and that's both in Germany and in this country and in Holland. And I had my own stallion as well, so I was quite interested in breeding and the improvement of horses in this country. So mostly it's just through experience as a rider, because the problem with breeding is that people breed horses and they might look nice, but do riders want to ride them? And then what is it that when you ride a horse makes it a good horse to be in sport for a long period of time? Because there's no point having a horse that works well until you're 8 and then falls apart, like, like a car where the wheels fall off. It's not great, and there's time and energy and a lot of emotion involved in the riding and training of a horse. And so it's and it's an old saying that it takes a lot of time to deal with any horse, so you just as well deal with a good one, not a bad one. And it's looking at horse's usefulness in sport for a period of time. And I felt quite strongly about that, having had a horse myself that I produced to international level that then broke. So and then I lost my top horse, and so I know as a rider what that's like. And then I've sort of and through my training as an engineer, so I'm quite interested in biomechanics, I apply that then to what I'm doing. So it's just a whole interest thing really for me.
That's fascinating. So you're kind of applying loads of different bits of your knowledge.
So now everyone's falling asleep. I'm sorry.
No, not at all. It's incredibly interesting. It's good to know that your experience is what you're drawing upon. It's not the fact that
in all forms, because I know it's like having worked for studs producing stallions, what the desire of the breeder is. But sometimes, I remember one particular guy I used to work for, and he'd go, "This is a dressage horse," and I'd go, "Nope, it's a show jumper." And he'd go, "This is a show jumper," and I'd go, "Nope, I want it for dressage." And so, because I'm used to riding it, I'm used to trying to produce it along the scales of training, and sometimes what someone sees isn't what you feel. So for me, really important things are, how the neck is connected into the shoulder, how the hind leg is, wants to be applied, because those are all things that I spend all day trying to develop in a horse, that ability to do that more. And if it naturally wants to do that, then that helps you along that way, and that horse's ability to do things naturally rather than it becoming a chore.
So drawing upon what you're saying, your job is not to criticise the horse, it's to try and find out what the horse is going to be good at, and directing people in the right way.
And for the length of time. We want, if we say a horse is, sort of a second premium, we're not saying it's rubbish, we're just saying that this horse would be a great horse to work at national level for as long as possible. And we want everyone to have a nice horse that they can work with, whether that's an amateur rider or a professional's horse, where the elite horses are the 9s. Those are international horses. We don't expect them with their characters to be quite as easygoing as a lower level horse, which will be, we've seen horses today where you just look at it and you think, God, those people are going to love that horse, and they're going to have a lovely time for a long time together, and then that horse has value. We're not discriminating and saying that's rubbish. We're just saying that's this horse's purpose in life.
And I think that's definitely what's needed. So Sherry, when you're marking the horses, what in your mind are you looking for that 9 or that 8 or that 7? What's the main difference?
Personally, myself, I like a lot of articulation in the movement and show a good shoulder on the horse with a lot of movement in the shoulder. Very good head and neck connection. It's one of my priorities. I also, as a breeder, very interested in the mares and the mare lines. Mares are more important. They're so important in breeding. People do not understand that. That's the way I sort of like look at it. I like to look at the mare, and I like to see if the stallion's improved on the mare.
Okay, fantastic.
So the foal is beside the mum, has that stallion improved that foal?
Fantastic.
But if in the mare, it's got to be good too.
That's really interesting.
Because when people choose a stallion, they're usually choosing the stallion because they like the look of the stallion, the way it moves, or whatever it does, and that's really in their mind what they want. That stallion's not a progenitor, you won't get that.
You've got to have something that complements.
So you've got to have history through and through and through the generations that it's the progeny is producing what it's supposed to be producing. so it looks like the dad. You know, you see a replica, but better. It's got to be better than the mare, better than the dad.
Well, continuing with this, Judith, if we're looking to improve the whole time with these foals, as you say, so surely then this kind of futurity and what the BEF is doing must be fantastic for breeding in Britain.
Fantastic opportunity to give feedback to people. And we try to give the horses that come foals, the old horses, as much opportunity to show themselves as well as they can on the day. And then to try and give as constructive feedback as possible to the breeders, particularly the breeders who are, you know, some people just have one and that's their horse, they're going to have that and they're not going to have any more, but others are perhaps more professional breeders or breeders that are, you know, doing that on a more regular basis, and trying to give them feedback to say, well, that's a nice horse, but if, you know, it had a bit more freedom in the shoulder or a better hind leg, then it would be a better horse. So then we hope then they look then at their mare to see how they can improve on their mare and look at stallions that may be a better match for that mare. So hopefully the next time they'll come with one that's better again.
So Richard, from what I gather, the eventing breeding is obviously a little bit more established than the dressage in this country, but how is the futurity now pushing that forward and what's it doing for the eventing in this country?
Well, I think traditionally event horses were bred because they were good hunter stock both in Britain and in Ireland, and crossed with thoroughbred, it naturally produced a horse to go hunting, steeplechasing, there were thoroughbreds, and eventing. But it was more by good luck than by anything else. There wasn't great management, and it was all fairly arbitrary. But we did produce wonderful event horses. Well, now I think these evaluations have concentrated the mind of breeders to decide what sort of horse they ought to be breeding, not just a nice looking horse. Could go to the show ring, could do show jumping maybe, could do eventing if it had quality. It's much more focused. And I think these evaluations have helped enormously because it's important that breeders understand what they're trying to breed. So that there's a use for that horse. And you were saying we're not being critical, you were saying earlier, but in fact these are critical assessments because obviously we're comparing horses and we're marking them up with good points, but if they've got faults or they've got limitations, then they don't get such high marks. But the idea is that it can steer breeders and so that they know what they're aiming for. And I think what Leslie was saying is very important, that mare owners are selective to find what is going to complement the qualities of their own mare by using a stallion that is going to perhaps make up for the deficiencies. And so people need to know these deficiencies.
I think breeders need to be very critical of their own stock and
And
their
ask-
own mares,
rather-
very critical. They have to look at them all the time and evaluate their own breeding mares for the good points and bad points. They need to do that. They're not looking at them. If you're not being critical of your own animal, you can't improve on it.
It's a very good point.
A month ago I was invited to go up to Ireland to judge all the potential 3-year-olds for eventing, all the qualifiers throughout Ireland for the horse show, Dublin Horse Show. And at the first one they said to the breeders, and the thing finished at about 11 o'clock at night, and I'd had 6 hours solid judging, they said would they like to come and talk to me? And they all wanted to know what I thought of their horses. And luckily I'd made notes. And they were genuinely interested to know what we were looking for. And those were breeders that had probably been breeding a long time, but they weren't that focused on what they were trying to breed. And I think it was helpful. And all these things, it's very good to have a rapport between the people who want performance horses and actually perform, and the people who probably they never come into contact with, which are the breeders, and vice versa. The breeders don't come into contact with.
I think it's the next step forward.
And so all this is hugely important.
I think people have to see that when we that's where we've moved on. This isn't a beauty contest. We're not looking at it and oh, that looks pretty. The difference between this and sort of, you know, looking at it and is it beautiful, is we're looking at cause and effect in terms of, you know, performance. So we look at the biomechanics, effectively it's what we're assessing, that how the horse is put together, so how it uses itself. So a horse that is weak over the loins, you'll quite often see they have droopy tummies because then they don't use the top line, which means they don't engage the core muscles. So you don't get this whole engagement of the hind leg, which then the horse isn't going to be able to carry itself, doesn't develop self-carriage, it's much more difficult to school. And so it's all about the horse being able to improve its way of going through how its body is. It's not just, oh, do we think that's pretty or not? There is a reasoning behind what we're choosing and why we're choosing it, you know.
And do you ever get horses that come in, say they've gone for the eventing, and you recommend that maybe they move on to the dressage?
Yes,
is that quite often?
Yes, we will advise
them
that.
around.
Yeah.
So you're basically helping the horse achieve its maximum potential on every single level.
We
And
don't
vice
do it
versa.
without asking either. We always consult with the owners and or the breeder, whoever brings the horse in front of us. We consult with them.
I've seen some fabulous horses today. Have you seen an improvement in standards over?
I have over the series, yes.
I've seen it over the past couple of years as well.
It's important to see the good horses that we've seen today, because that is the standard. I mean, as a percentage, you're only going to see 1 or 2, 3, maybe at one evaluation. Sometimes you don't see any at an evaluation. You wouldn't expect to see 20. It would be nice, but it's important that people see those and other people see them, and they say that's what a top horse looks like, and it gives people then that that vision and the aim to...
And also the inspiration to go on and do something with this horse.
Yeah.
Well, we've seen outside today people coming out with big smiles on their faces from whatever mark they've got. It doesn't have to be an elite horse for them to have come out absolutely delighted. So everything seems to be heading in the right direction. Thank you very much.
Thank you.